After last year finally saw Yakuza Kiwami hit the original Switch, the first time a franchise title had touched a Nintendo platform since the non-localized HD remaster of its first two titles came to the Wii U, and the first time ever outside Japan, fans found it a mixed bag. The remake of the first game already had issues due to deliberately recreating some of its less popular aspects, and certain crowded scenes struggled to run well on the aging platform. Rather than trying to continue porting to the underpowered predecessor, Sega is putting their best foot forward on its significantly stronger follow-up by offering the most popular game in the entire series, with brand new content.
Get ready.
Yakuza Zero was the game that truly broke the series through outside of Japan after it released on the PlayStation 4 and the PS3, but just in its original country. It gave potential fans a much more slick entry point than the rather clunky Kiwami, turning back Kamurocho's clock by 20 years to show the series' legendary protagonist Kazuma Kiryu as a young up-and-comer in the Tojo clan. Kiryu gets framed for the murder of a lone shark he'd just shaken down on a small vacant lot, and then pulled into a massive multi-factional conspiracy regarding that extremely valuable land on which Millennium Tower will eventually stand. Meanwhile, in Osaka, Goro Majima is the extravagant but formidable owner of a giant cabaret club called The Grand, but despite living a dream life full of extravagance, he's actually on a short leash being held by the Tojo's rival clan, the Omi Alliance. His sole motivation is to return to the Tojo, and he's offered the chance to do so in exchange for a grim favor for his current masters. The dual protagonist setup also lends itself to the game's combat, with each hero getting 4 fighting styles that heavily reference what we'd see from them in their futures. Zero debuted a brand new engine that also significantly improved the feeling of combat over pretty much the whole series up to that point, and the insanity of its fast-paced kung fu action was one of the big reasons the game went viral in 2018. Basically, the entire extended zeitgeist moment that the Like a Dragon franchise has been in started with this one game, so it's not hard to imagine Sega wanting to finally bring it to the Switch. But rather than a straight port or even remaster of this title, Yakuza Zero on Switch 2 is the first game to be branded with the heavy weight of a director's cut subtitle. So, what's the deal? I got to try out a 2-part demo of Yakuza Zero Director's Cut, but the first part is likely to be more familiar to existing players. I was dropped at the beginning of the game's 3rd chapter just after the extravagant introduction of Majima into the plot, and set loose for a short time in Sotenbori. I've played Zero before, so while I didn't get to see any new content in this part, I did get to experience the game's brand new dub, again starring Matthew Mercer as Majima and Young-Ye as Kiryu, though he was not present in any of the scenes I saw. The dub itself is a fairly major addition to the game, though players should expect it to be at the same level as the dubs for the Like a Dragon entries. Cutscenes are fully dubbed, but regular and combat dialogue largely are not. Still, Mercer brings the character to life as usual, and while I admit that it took me a while to get used to him, I'm glad to see him get to tackle a very different iteration of Majima than we'd see in later entries. The big new feature I got to experience was the brand new Red Light Raid mode, accessible through the title screen. Here, players can choose from 60 different unlockable characters, including pretty much all of the base game's bosses, and battle with either friends or computer-controlled companions, or solo, through waves of enemies throughout Kamurocho. You're judged on completion time, and you're on an arcade-style timer for each wave, technique, and more, and rewarded with money at the end of your run to either upgrade your unlocked characters or purchase new ones. This might seem like an insubstantial addition to the game, but actually playing through it was surprisingly interesting. Yakuza combat is always chaotic, but the addition of 3 extra helpers and a massive field of foes adds a different flavor to it, even before you include all the extra playable characters. Many games in the franchise include a scene near the climax where the hero stares down a huge crowd of bloodthirsty foes before being rescued by a secondary character who volunteers to fight them off so Kiryu or Ichiban can go focus on the real target. Red Light Raid feels like actually getting to play out those battles, and it's honestly rather exhilarating. As for the other playable characters, the best comparison I can make for playing as them is that it feels similar to Kingdom Hearts 358 Days Over 2's Mission Mode, a post-game mode that allowed you to complete missions as any of the other Organization 13 members. It's a fun feature, but you shouldn't expect these extra characters to be as fleshed out or versatile as the primary heroes. As for the performance and graphics on the Switch 2 hardware, you should expect this to be pretty much exactly what we got on the PS4. Given that many such games, including the Yakuza Kiwami port I mentioned earlier, struggled to run on the first Switch, the fact that this title reaches a consistent 60 frames per second is relieving, but don't expect any improvements on that front if you're familiar with the original. If this is Sega's first step towards bringing the full franchise to Nintendo's newest console, Zero is an ideal place to begin, and I think this package makes complete sense for people who haven't gotten to play Yakuza 0 before. Even those who are already familiar with this tale have a brand new dub and multiple new text languages, new cutscenes, and a multiplayer mode to enjoy. Hopefully we hear news that the rest of the series is coming soon, because Nintendo fans deserve to experience the entire epic saga. Yakuza 0 Director's Cut is coming to Nintendo Switch 2 at launch on June 5th, 2025. Thanks for watching. This video is brought to you by our supporters on Patreon. Noisy Pixel is run by a group of gamers providing independent gaming coverage through news, reviews, previews, and more. Check out our Patreon to help support our continued growth and subscribe to keep up with all of our future content.
Noisy Pixel.